All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to Bhakti Shastri class. We'll start by chanting the prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarobhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's recite the first 4 verses that you're supposed to memorize. Vacho vegam manasah krodha vegam jivva vegam udaro pastha vegam etan vegan yo vishaheta dhiraha sarvam apiman prithivim sashishyan atyaharaha prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangasya lolyam cha Shadkhir bhakti vinashyati utsaha nischaya dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vrittihe shadkhir bhakti prasiddhyati tadati pratigrinnati guhyamakhyati pritchati bhungte bhojayate chaiva shadvidham priti lakshanam. So in the verse we discussed last week, we came to know about the 6 types of urges one has to control in order to engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses, the Supreme Lord Krishna. If someone says, what's the problem if I don't control these urges? The problem is then we cannot become a good servant of Krishna, or we cannot become a good servant of pure devotees of Krishna. So in order to become a good servant, we have to control these urges. In the verse today and tomorrow, verse number 2, we come to realize that there are 6 qualities or 6 tendencies which makes controlling these urges very difficult. So now please try to understand the 6 urges that I mentioned in the previous verse. These urges, they don't disturb us at every single moment. Sometimes their force increases and sometimes their force decreases. Like for example, you don't always feel hungry. You feel hungry sometimes, right? It's not that every second of the day you are having the urge for food. So the Vedas, the urge is mentioned in the previous text. These urges, they are sometimes present, right? They attack you sometimes, or they influence you sometimes. But why these urges influence us? That's because of an underlying tendency inside us or underlying attitude inside us. Those problems, attitude problems, are mentioned in this text number 2. So if I can check my attitude as mentioned in text number 2, and I don't engage in these activities which are mentioned in text number 2, then when those urges become, the urges leave the impression on me or try to influence me, I'll be able to control those urges better. So those 6 attitudes are mentioned in this verse number 2. Now, these are 6 qualities which are basically obstacles to your devotional life, unfavorable qualities. What they are atyaharaha prayasascha, prajalpo niyamagraha, janasangascha lolyamcha, shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. These 6 qualities that destroy devotional service. They destroy devotional service. Basically, if we don't control the urges or we do not, come out of these qualities, then we will develop these tendencies further more and more and more. And in our heart, there will be an environment of material consciousness, which will make it very difficult for us to practice devotional service to Krishna. So this is a big subject matter. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written an essay on each one of this quality. Of course, our course doesn't allow us to discuss all those essays in detail, but please keep you on mute, Mataji. So that you can study maybe later on. So we'll read the translation. Once devotional service is spoiled, when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Second, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Third, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Fourth, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. So when we are new to devotional service, these 6 tendencies are often seen in us because we have still a lot of material consciousness. And these are very harmful to our devotional life. But still we see that these tendencies are prominent in a person. And that's why a person has to work hard to get rid of these 6 faults. Some faults may be more prominent in someone, some faults may be less prominent. But you do find that such faults are commonly present. Srila Prabhupada, he begins the explanation, the purport, in a slightly different manner. Instead of right away, explaining these 6 qualities, what he does is, first of all, he sets the right foundation for us to understand the subject matter. He says, why have we got the human form of life? If the human form of life is for just acquiring material success, then these 6 things are not bad for you. But if you understand that human form of life is for making spiritual development, then you would know that these 6 things are not good for you, right? So first of all, he's trying to explain to us, what is human life for? What is it meant for? Here we will come to learn that, you see, what is happening is, because people are too much greedy, there is over hankering. Natural result of that is over endeavoring. You have a very strong desire, so then you also put a lot of efforts. And then when there's over endeavoring, then when you get the result also in, let's say, more than what you need, you start collecting it. or hoarding it, accumulating it. And you stop following the Ishavasya principle, right? So it starts with too much of desire, being too passionate about things, then putting lots of efforts at the cost of your health, at the cost of your relationship, at the cost of your spiritual life, whatever. And then when you get success more than what you need, you still keep on getting that success. So first, let's read the foundation that Prabhupada is setting. What is human life for? And then we will be able to appreciate why these qualities are not good for any sadhaka practicing devotee, right? So let's read the purpose. Swati Mataji, you can start.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Yeah. Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has three primary energies or potencies. The first is called the Antaranga Shakti or the internal potency. The second is called the Tatastha Shakti or the marginal potency. The third is called the Bahiranga Shakti or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency and they are situated between the internal and external potencies, being subordinate as eternal servant of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Jivatmas or atomic living entities must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely the constant engagement in devotional service of the Lord. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.13.
Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritimashitaha bhajanti ananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. Read the translation also.
Yes, Prabhuji. O son of Partha, those who are not deluded, the great souls are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
So Srila Prabhupada, you see, he's writing the purport. And you find that he's beginning it in a different note. Try to understand philosophically what is he trying to explain here. He's saying that we are jivatmas. So we can only be in one of the two situations. First is either under the control of the spiritual energy of Krishna or under the control of the material energy of Krishna. Fine. We understand that from Bhagavad Gita. Let me show it in the slide. So, three principal energies are there. And one is called internal, second is called marginal, third is called external. The Jiva Atma is which one? The first, the second, the third?
Marginal energy.
Marginal energy, right? All right, marginal energy. Now, this marginal energy, Jivatma, is controlled either by the internal energy or the external energy. When it is controlled by the internal energy, that person is a Mahatma. But when it is controlled by the external energy, that person is a Duratma. Right? As such, when the Jiva is pure, controlled by the internal energy. When the Jiva is not pure, then controlled by the external energy. The problem is because the Jiva, conditioned Jiva, is controlled by external energy, the Jiva will be forced to work. Forced to work. Forced to desire, forced to put efforts, forced to work, and forced to accumulate. That will be there. That problem will be there. So, even if, let's say, I say, no, I don't want to work, that's not possible. The external energy of Krishna will push me to work. The solution is not to stop working, right? So how do you then overcome these problems which I mentioned in that verse? That is what being explained by Srila Prabhupada. So what he's doing is, he's first of all setting up the solution, and then he's going to explain how these 6 qualities are bad for us. Let's read the next paragraph. Now he's going little, not really off topic, but he's just explaining in detail now who is a Mahatma and who is a Duratma and all that. So it's very much on the line of his thought. For us, it may seem like little deviation from the topic. Next paragraph, who will read? Amrita, the last name.
Hare Krishna, Dandana Pranam. The word Mahatma refers to those who are border-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons always engaged in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like a nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratifications, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rupanshi Mataji, next paragraph.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. In the above quoted verse from the Bhagavad Gita,
Your volume is too less, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, now it's
Yeah, now it's okay.
yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. In the
Hmm.
above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the word Devim Prakritam refers to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or her expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of a Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
So Mahatma is someone who gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord. That's Mahatma. And that person works under the internal or Haladini potency of Krishna. But one who is not a Mahatma, he or she engages in 2 kinds of activities: personal sense gratification or extended sense gratification. Personal sense gratification, I work for myself. Extended sense gratification, I work for my family, I work for my society, I work for my nation, I work for the whole planet. That's extended sense gratification. Which means one can be an atyahari for oneself, or one can also be an atyahari for the society. Now, when you are doing things for oneself, people in this world call you selfish. And when you do things for others, people in this world call you selfless. Right? But actually, from Krishna conscious perspective, you are selfless when you do things for Krishna. Doing for oneself or doing for others, it's both selfishness. It's not selflessness. Now you may say, how? I am sacrificing my happiness for others' happiness. So you are sacrificing your happiness on gross platform. But by doing sacrifice for others, your ego is getting satisfied. There is a satisfaction to the ego. That I am such a selfless worker. I do things for others. I give them happiness. I bring them so much of joy. So I'm such a nice, selfless person. So there's no happiness, let's say, on physical gross platform, but there is so much of enjoyment on the subtle platform. It satisfies the ego of the person. So again, when it satisfies my ego, it will also be considered as selfishness only, right? Because the purpose is not Krishna's satisfaction, it's my satisfaction. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain to us how, first of all, what constitutes real Krishna consciousness should be understood, right? Now the next paragraph. Ashok Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold misery. Adi Daivaka Klesha, suffering caused by the demigods, such as droughts, earthquakes, and storms. Adi Bhautika Klesha, suffering caused by the other living entities like insects and enemies. And Adhyatmika Klesha, sufferings caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva Bhutatma Hi Daiva, the conditioned souls subject to these three miseries by the control of the external energy suffer various difficulties. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Now, whether you are a person working for your sense gratification or you are a person working for other sense gratification, regardless of that, Srila Prabhupada writes, you still continue to suffer these problems in life or sufferings in life, right? Regardless of that, in both cases. Which means he's trying to say, so that's not a very intelligent thing to do, because ultimately it brings you suffering, different kinds of suffering. 4 problems of life: birth, old age, disease, and death, and 3 kinds of kleshas. Next paragraph, Tulasi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The main problem confronting the conditioned souls is the repetition of birth, old age, disease, and death. In the material world, one has to work for the maintenance of the body and soul. But how can one perform such work in a way that is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness? Everyone requires possessions such as food grains, clothing, money, and other things necessary for the maintenance of the body. But one should not collect more than necessary for his actual basic needs. If this natural principle is followed, there will be no difficulty in maintaining the body.
Yeah.
Must I continue?
No. So here now Srila Prabhupada begins to address the main topic. Why he started with such an introduction in the purport, we have to understand, as I said in the beginning, that we are in this material world. We are stuck here because we are under the material energy of Krishna. We are forced to work. We cannot stop working. However, now we can decide in what spirit or attitude we want to work. We will be forced to work. But then how am I going to work? So that my work, instead of leading to further bondage in this world, it can lead to liberation from this world. That choice of work is in my hand. How do I do it? How can we work in a way which is favorable for the execution of Krishna consciousness, and which can also help us control the 6 urges? Control the 6 urges. How should we work? That's to be understood and applied. So it's That's why you see when we study these two books, Nectar of Instruction and Devotion, we'll understand that bhakti is a science and it requires planning. Because you want to achieve a very specific goal. It's not like you're shooting in the sky. The target is, you don't know where the target is, and you're just shooting in the sky. And by chance, if you hit the target, very good. No, it's not like that. Bhakti means, there is a very specific goal. The second thing, you also understand there's a very specific way of achieving that goal. You can't just achieve it any way or every way. There is a particular way of achieving that goal. Which means what? Whatever obstacles that come on the way to achieve that goal, you have to very diligently come out of those obstacles, get rid of those obstacles. Right? It's not that I'm just doing something, and that will help me achieve the goal. No. One has to apply one's intelligence, one's mind. That deliberation is required. So how should we work in a way we can control the six urges? That's the topic now that's going to be discussed or described. That is so important. So important to understand how to work. Everyone can work in this world. Sometimes people are so proud that we can work, but who doesn't work? Even the ants work. Everyone works. Right? So just to work, that's not enough. How should we work so that my work does not lead to bondage? Karma bandhana. Right. So, first quality, which one should try to come out of, is called atyaharaha. Ati aharaha. Right. Atyahara. So the meaning of this term is, ati means too much. Ati also means
More.
unnecessary.
Excess.
Excess and unnecessary. Ahara means generally eating.
Yeah.
So atyahara would mean overeating. But then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, this is a very small book with very essential instructions. Overeating is a topic which is already covered in the verse number 1, when we discussed Udara Vega, the urge of the belly. Overeating is already covered. Jiva Vega, Udara Vega, which means tasting and eating. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur then questions, why would Sri Rupa Goswami repeat the same instruction again in such a small book? This is a summary of his teachings. So ati ahara cannot just mean overeating. Then he says, there is not just food for the mouth to swallow or consume. There are food for the eyes, there are food for the ears, there's food for the nose, there's food for the skin, and there's food for the mouth. So he says, any sense you bring in contact with its sense objects in excess, then you are an ati ahari. You're consuming more than required. Any sense you're bringing in contact with any other sense, its sense object, more than required, then you are an ati ahari. Right? Consuming more than required. Anything. Like, for example, to have the desire to have, hundreds of garments because of their different colors, designs, cloth texture, quality. That is also atyahara. Right? Not just eating food. So this is first quality. And this is opposite to what? This is opposite to simple living. Simple living means no atyahara. Atyahara means no simple living. So ati means too much or unnecessary, and ahara means to enjoy. I already explained. enjoy in excess. Now, basic requirements everyone has. Everyone requires food, everyone requires clothing, everyone requires little money for maintenance of the body. But then when we start collecting more than what we need, then this is called atyaharaha. So why is it that devotees also sometimes may have this tendency or urge to collect more than what is needed? Because of envy. Envying whom? Envying the materialistic people. You see, that person bought a new car, that person bought a new house, that person has a new sari, the lady has a new sari. Such things I also want. So that's why the solution for that is a devotee should not envy a materialistic person. If you envy materialistic people, then you would want to live your life the way they live their life. Then you would want more. So that's first. Atyaharaha. Very dangerous quality. We waste a lot of time. Shiva says in the next paragraph that, see, even animals, they don't collect more than necessary. Whatever they need, that much only they collect. And they eat that day. But humans, they accumulate, which is a bad quality. We discussed already in Ishavasyan verse, right? When you accumulate, that means you're depriving someone else of it. Correct, isn't it? Let's read the next paragraph. Sanatana.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Hmm.
According to nature's arrangement, living entities lower on the evolutionary scale do not eat or collect more than necessary. Consequently, in the animal kingdom, there is generally no economic problem or scarcity of necessities. If a bag of rice is placed in a public place, birds will come to eat a few grains and go away. A human being, however, will take away the whole bag. He will eat all his stomach and hold and then try to keep the rest in storage. But according to scriptures, this collecting of more than necessary atyahar is prohibited. Now the entire world is suffering because of it. Hare Krishna.
And the entire world is suffering because of it. So now, how to accumulate for personal life? The solution is different for different person. If you are a sannyasi or brahmachari, then you don't accumulate anything for your personal life. Right? Which means one should not have fear for tomorrow or next year or 10 years down the line. If I get sick, what will happen? If I change the city, what will happen? That fear should not be there. And for grihasthas, they can accumulate. But too much? No. They can also accumulate only what is required, just sufficient for the sake of maintenance. Not too much. That's not allowed. So these instructions of Updeshamrit apply differently for Vairagis and for Grihasthas. So for Grihasthas, there is leverage, but then to some extent, not too much of it. Accumulation, atyahara is allowed. What will happen if we do that? I mean, if we don't take care of it, the next quality will come in us. And the next quality is over-endeavoring. That over-endeavoring means more time for Maya, less time for Krishna. That's what will happen. Okay. So solution. What is the solution? Solution is yukta ahara. Yukta ahara. Not ati ahara. Yukta ahara. Yukta means connected. Ahara, enjoyment. Connected enjoyment. Connected to Krishna. Right. Yukta ahara. Which means accept sense gratification not in the mood of enjoyment, but in the mood of service. accept sense objects as Krishna's mercy. Some people think you accept sense objects as Krishna's mercy and then enjoy. No, you accept sense objects as Krishna's mercy and then take only as much as required. Not that because it is Krishna Prasad, so I should overtake. I should take, yes, because it is, because I need to take, so I must take. It's not denied. You take. But then you take it only as much as it is required, even if it is Krishna's mercy. Yukta ahara, accepting sense objects as Krishna's mercy. Fine. And then using that object in Krishna's seva, not personal sense gratification. So the question is, what is the word sufficient? What does it mean? Where to put the line that it is sufficient? Sometimes you cannot decide it for yourself what is sufficient. So what you should do is that someone who knows you for a long time, you should check with that person, some devotee, someone superior to you, more mature. Because, as I mentioned before, some people have some of these tendencies more than others. Like, there are people who are too passionate about certain things. And there are people who are not so passionate about those things, but passionate about something else. So if you are an Atyahari, you'll be an Atyahari in not just one thing, you'll be an Atyahari in everything. That will be your nature or tendency. You're getting it? So you may not know I'm an Atyahari, but someone else who knows you, observes you, knows that you are an Atyahari. So then that person can put a precaution, may revert to you, that what you are desiring is more than what we actually need. Right? Because the amount cannot be decided, for different individuals at different time periods in life, the amount will be different. Like there's a family of 2 people, then the requirement is different. There's a family of 5 people, requirement is different, right? Isn't it? So those are practical details. But then when it comes to know about the nature, the fault, that fault can be seen or known that this person has this problem. So then that person can be informed that you have a tendency towards too much accumulation. So then check yourself. Do little manthan, introspection, and find out whether you are doing atyahar or not. Right? Isn't it? Then ultimately, how much is sufficient for us? That you only have to decide now. No one is going to decide for you. Isn't it? That's what you only have to decide. No one else can decide it for you. So, but someone can only tell you or caution you that you have a tendency of over accumulation. So be careful. Like when you stay in brahmachari ashram, to live with so many brahmacharis and you live closely, so you know each other. So we had one brahmachari, I won't share the name, of course, but then he would accumulate anything, everything. Anything, everything means soaps, shaving cream, even plastic cups, books, book marathon, then books also, right? You go and you'll find so many, earbuds in his almirah. So now that's a nature. That's a nature. Anything you get, you collect. Take more and more and more and more and more. Is it required? Not required. So some people have that nature, they collect plastic bags, they collect so many different things, and they keep on collecting bottles, jars, like ladies, so many things. And similarly, people have gadgets, watches, like 10, 12 different kinds of watches. That's unhealthy. So we have to check that. Someone else can let us know. This quality is there. Okay. Some people have tendency to have so many houses, like one flat Vrindavan, one flat Mayapur, one flat Jagannath Puri, one in Mumbai, and one here, one there. That's also accumulation, unnecessary accumulation. So many cars and all that. Fine. All right. So atyahara. Careful. One should be careful. Like, is it really needed for me? One has to be very honest with oneself. Is it really needed for me? This kind of clothes, this kind of shoes, this kind of watch, this kind of phone, this kind of house. How many? Right. And the best thing is what? To remain away from this bad quality is as soon as you get more, start giving away. Don't keep with you. Just start giving away. If you don't know it, give it away. Don't just keep, like if you need 2 slippers, you got third one, give it away to someone as a gift. So take. Don't keep. You know how much you need. So don't keep. Then you just give it away. Not required. Right. Then that way you don't start accumulating. You are balancing. Things come, things go. You utilize them in Krishna's service. All right, so that's for Atyahar. And it's for everything, actually, for all our senses. We have to be careful. Now, when we don't do that, when we don't check that bad quality, as I mentioned, it leads to the next bad quality, which is prayas. Prayas means you start endeavoring too much then to get those things. Right? And this endeavor is not favorable to devotion service. Ati ahara causes ati prayas. Excess endeavor. Some endeavor is required, but excess endeavor. That problem comes. And this excess endeavor then becomes an issue for you to then also complete your sadhana. Because no time then for sadhana, spiritual life. Endeavoring too much. Right? So that becomes a problem, challenge. Okay. Now you may say, but then what to do? So many bills to pay and all that stuff. So cut down. Cut down on your expenses. Right? Cut down on your expenses. That's all you have to do. Second paragraph, next paragraph. Let's read the next paragraph. Shri Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Collecting and eating more than necessary also causes prayas or unnecessary endeavor. By God's arrangement, anyone in any part of the world can live very peacefully if he has some land and a milk cow. There is no need for man to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood. For one can produce food grains locally and get milk from cows. That can solve all economic problems. Fortunately, man has been given higher intelligence for the cultivation of Krishna consciousness or the understanding of God. One's relationship with Him and the ultimate goal of life, love of God. Unfortunately, so-called civilized man, not caring for God realization, utilizes his intelligence to get more than necessary and simply eats to satisfy the tongue. By God's arrangement, there is sufficient scope for the production of milk and grains for human beings all over the world. But instead, using their higher intelligence to cultivate God consciousness, so-called intelligent men misuse their intelligence to produce many unnecessary and unwanted things. Thus, factories, slaughterhouses, brothels, and liquor shops are opened. If people are advised not to collect too many goods, eat too much, or work unnecessarily to possess artificial amenities, they think they are being advised to return to a primitive way of life. Generally, people do not like to accept clean living and high thinking. This is their unfortunate position. Hare Krishna.
So then, because you have too much of need, created need, so you also put in too much of efforts to get more and more and more and more. It's not required, but then you just keep on putting efforts. Right? Now you see how interesting it is. If I don't become a devotee, I'll definitely get into this trap. There's no coming out of it. If I don't become a nice devotee, I'll definitely fall in this trap, which means I will have these urges and then I just go with the flow. Just go with the flow. And spend my time working so hard to get things which will finally be taken away from me. Right? Over endeavor, so much of endeavor. Prayas, extra, unnecessary endeavor to get these things, unwanted things, unnecessary, unwanted things. It leads to over endeavor. So over collecting requires over endeavor, and which happens due to over hankering or lolium, greed. And Prabhupada gives a solution. Of course, his solution is something not everyone can apply in fact these days, but it's really workable solution. 1 acre of land is sufficient. 1 acre of land is sufficient in what way? You can have your own house. You can have your own farm. You can have your own cows. You can grow crops. You can grow fruits, vegetables. And you can live very peacefully. Is this only, something to give us an idea that this is possible? No, actually, it is a fact. It is reality. There's so many people, you can go to Google and search out people who are living their life like this. From 1 acre, they're earning 100,000 rupees every month. 1 lakh rupees from 1 acre of land. Very nice, isn't it? Then to work in a job and then make just 20, 30,000, 40,000 rupees. And that's 1 acre of land you have your own house there and you're making money also out of it. Quite nice alternative option. Everyone is not a Vaishya, but everyone lives on land only, no? Correct. Kshatriyas and Brahmanas don't live in the sky. They also live in the land. And everyone needs a cow. Everyone needs food to eat. So it doesn't mean that if I'm not a Vaishya, I cannot have this kind of program. You are a Brahmana or you are a Kshatriya, you can employ a Vaishya to look after your land. That's how it happens. It's not that everyone is going to farm. They get laborers to farm or cultivate crops. They follow that system. Of course, we have gone very far away from this model. But what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say is that just living on the land is also a possibility, which people think sometimes not possible. It is also a possibility, and which is true. There are so many people, especially during this COVID times, many people lost their jobs. They have no other alternative than to start something different, and they started something like this farm business. Started growing Ayurvedic medicines and all that stuff. So many examples I know. And then they started doing better than all that job stuff they were doing. Much better life actually. Living in a small town, not much pollution, not so much of noise. The rates of everything you buy is cheaper relatively. You live in your house is close to your work area all the time, so much time for family, and also good money. Right? So people did find such alternative ways. And Prabhupada has mentioned that it is possible. It's possible. So he's just giving a possibility. Yes, it's possible. So now, what would happen is actually community would be made. Uh, Like you don't live alone. So there are people who are Vaishya type nature, there are people who are Kshatriya type nature, there are people who are Brahmana type nature, there are people who are Shudra type nature. Let's say 40, 50 families, different nature. They come together, they buy lands, and then they make a community or a society. Fine. So now in that community of 40, 50 people, you are a teacher, you have engagement. You are a farmer, you have engagement. You are a mason, construction, you have engagement. Everyone has a chance to serve the other members of the community. So there are such examples also now, like we go to Gujarat, near Vadodara, there is a community made by His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj disciples. I visited there, stayed there for 3 days. Around 50 families live there. No electricity. But they are doing everything. No electricity. Everything they're doing. They have a nice temple. In the morning you go completely lit with lamps, Mangalarti. Then they follow the morning routine of iskcon temple. Their services divided. Those who are farmer type nature, they all go for farming. Those who are teachers, they teach. They teach the children also. The ladies also, depending on what their nature is. Then people are, those who are cooks, they go and cook in the kitchen, right? Yeah, everything. There are people who are constructing, so they construct the buildings. They don't get any resource from outside, no manpower from outside. Everything they are doing on their own, from construction, from farming, from selling, trade, whatever they manufacture, produce, they trade it out. All that very nice. I mean, of course, it has its challenges, but it's not that it's impossible. It's happening. It's happening. Right? It's happening. So this is what Srila says, that life can be made much more simpler. It's possible. It's possible. Of course, it needs efforts. That is possible. 1 acre of land. Next. Now, what is the result of misuse of human intelligence? This is the result. Statistics from India. Little old statistics. Factories. 12.8 million workers in India work in factories. Slaughterhouses. 1,250 plus. Legal. Prostitution. 3 to 10 million prostitutes in India. Big number. Beer shops. 5 billion liter consumption every year in India. That's misuse of human intelligence. And that same intelligence can be used like this. But without using that intelligence like this, then the intelligence is used in this. Right? The misuse. What to do? People's hankering greed makes them do such things. Even when they know it's wrong, then they'll say, what to do? My life is like this. Krishna put me in such a situation. I know it's wrong, but what to do? I have to do such things. You don't have to do such things. It's just that you don't want to quit doing such things. The alternative options are there sometimes, but we don't think about it. Let's do a simple exercise now. Okay. It's a funny exercise, but we'll do it anyway. So you have to tell us the advantages of motor car and the advantages of bullock car. Okay. And the disadvantages of motor car and the disadvantages of bullock cart. So let's do this exercise. What are the advantages of motor car? What are the advantages of bullock cart? And disadvantages also. Okay, advantages of motor car is fast way you can commute. And for bullock cart, no pollution. Motor car is speed. Car can go further. Car saves time. Comfort. Car has air condition. Okay. Bullock car needs no chemical fuel. Motor car is fast but pollutes. Car protection from rain. Safe and comfortable travel. Motor car gives accident. Ego boost. Long distance can be covered. More employment in car factory. So, Bullock car prevents unnecessary travel. Car has audio system. So, okay. Krishna has already given a mouth to you. It's a very nice audio system. Economical development. No problem of brand or choice in Bullock car. Bullock car, less accident, eco-friendly. One can enjoy nature. No fuel, less expense. No killing of bulls. Need a license to drive car. Okay. Motor car is costly. Cheaper way of travel. Enjoy nature. Fine. So now, if you look at it very closely, yes, car gives lots of advantages, but it also gives equal number of disadvantages. Right or not? Equal number of disadvantages. So much more, actually. Like, look at this list, which we are showing you on the screen. Because of car, rubber factory. Because of car, iron factory. Because of car, oil refineries. Because of car, glass factory, plastic industry, unemployment, pollution, accidents, unnecessary industry. Just for one thing, car. So much. So much. Right. You never read in the headlines, 2 Bullock cars crashed, 10 people died. Never. So, for some people, it may be like, so what? But look at the consequence. Just to use motor cars, so many other problems are there. And then what does this pollution do? Then it creates cancer. It creates tumor. Right? It creates heart disease, breathing problem. So much more. Isn't it? So, and when you say fast travel, let me tell you that, of course, that science is lost. But in the ancient times, there were horses who could travel faster than our modern cars. Actually, no kidding, huh? There were horses like that, which could travel faster than the modern cars. They would go from Hastinapur to Dwarka in just one day, right, riding on the horses. You go by car, you will also take around one day only. So it's not that they did not have such facilities. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is saying now. Economic development is not human dharma. He's referring to that. Okay, let's take a break. Then we'll come to this topic again.
Hare
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So come back, please. So many of you don't put on the video cameras. Okay, so let's read the next paragraph. Human life is meant for Anitmataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Human life is meant for God realization, and the human being is given higher intelligence for this purpose. Those who believe that this higher intelligence is meant to attain a higher state should follow the instructions of the Vedic literatures. By taking such instructions from higher authorities, one can actually become situated in perfect knowledge and give real meaning to life. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.
Thank you.
Hare
So
Krishna.
the purpose of human life is described here, that one should take knowledge from higher authorities, the Vedic scriptures, and then situated in perfect knowledge, give real meaning to life, which means work hard, yes, but then for the real purpose, not for just some false purpose or a fake purpose. People get mad about what they want to do or achieve in life. And that is insanity, just wasting so much time. So know the real purpose from the scriptures and then put efforts. Be mad about who is worth to be mad about. Krishna, not about anything and everything. Now, when we are not mad about Krishna, we'll be mad about something else. Because that's what the nature of the living entity is. He or she should be mad about something. Right? So when we are not mad about Krishna or going back to Godhead, then we'll be mad about something else in life. And any such madness is going to lead to over endeavor, prayas, unnecessary endeavor. And then that will lead to problems in life, unnecessary problems in life. This is to be understood. So, how does a devotee, just a second, just a So, so a devotee has to be very careful, even like when we are endeavoring in areas of Krishna's consciousness, serving Lord Krishna. So we should know, like for example, if you are a surfer, you are surfing on the waves in the ocean or in the sea, then if you are an experienced surfer, you know you cannot surf on any wave. There are specific waves that allow you to surf on them. So being a good surfer means, first of all, you have to identify the waves. When those waves then come, then you ride on those waves and then you go deep into the ocean. If you think I'm going to ride on any wave, it's not going to work, right? So the surfers, they wait for the right kind of wave to come and then they ride on it. And then they go deeper into the sea or ocean. Similarly, we may try to put efforts to do so many things in life, but we should always see what waves Krishna is sending. Which waves are sent by Krishna, not something which is from my own mind, but the waves that Krishna is sending, and how strong is that wave. And then you ride on that wave, not any wave. That will save us from putting our efforts in any direction or every direction, right? Unnecessary efforts, extra efforts. So that will help us. Prayas will stop doing extra endeavor. Only do whatever is required. So for that, we have to be a little more conscious of what is Krishna's message or signal to me. Fine, I want to do something like this, but then what is Krishna's signal to me? And those who are intelligent devotees, they work as per Krishna's signals. Not that I made a plan, now this is how it should be, so I should be so adamant now, this is how it should be done. But maybe Krishna has a different plan. Let me read the way that Krishna is sending. And then just go on with that. Go ahead with that. Now it becomes easy for you to do that if you are in the servant consciousness. It becomes difficult for you to do that if you are in the master consciousness. If you are in the servant consciousness, then you are like, after all, I'm a servant of Krishna. Today it tells me to clean the floor, I'll clean the floor. Tomorrow it tells me to cook, I'll cook. After all, I'm a servant. Right? I don't have a choice. So this is how one can save oneself from extra endeavor, unnecessary endeavor. One can save. Otherwise, one will be in too much problem. Right? We have to be careful about that. Unnecessary extra endeavor. And this is a problem also, I think, many devotees come across in life, and because of which they start losing on their sadhana time, in their devotee sangha, association time, because they make such goals in their life, then you have to put a lot of efforts to achieve those goals. And then they become, sidetracked. They lose the main track of Krishna consciousness. They become busy in so many things in life. They miss the goal. It happens. Many times it happens. So one has to be very cautious during that phase and remain on that path, right? That's very essential. Okay, let's read the next paragraph. Srimad Bhagavatam, Varshana Lila.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In Srimad Bhagavatam 129, Sri Suta Goswami describes the proper dharma in this way. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthyo pakalpate narthasya dharmay kantasya kamo labhya hi smrata. All occupational engagements dharma, are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service, dharma, should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
No.
The first
Here
step in...
No, Mataji. So we'll discuss first. So here it's a verse quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, Srila Goswami is saying, what is dharma for? Dharma is not for prosperity only. Dharma is for liberation. They should not be performed material gain. So, which means we engage in religious or spiritual activities for the purpose of liberation from material life, not entanglement in material life. That's what is being explained. Next paragraph. Venkat Bhattacharya.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Prabhu.
Hmm.
The first step in human civilization consists of occupational engagement performed according to the spiritual injunction. The higher intelligence of a human being should be trained to understand basic dharma. In human society, there are various religions conceptions categorized as Hindu, Christian, Hebrew, Mohammedan, Buddhist, and so on. For without religion, human society is no better than animal society. Shall I continue, Prabhu?
Next paragraph. Someone else can read, please. Next paragraph. Sureka Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Sadhana. As that stated above, dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho rathayo pakalpate. Religion is meant for attaining emancipation, not for getting bread. Sometimes human society manufactures a system of so-called religion aimed at material advancement, but that is far from the purpose of true dharma. Religion entails understanding the law of God, because the proper execution of these laws ultimately leads one out of material entanglement. That is the true purpose of religion. Unfortunately, people accept religion for material prosperity because of atyahara, or an excessive desire for such prosperity. True religion, however, instructs people to be satisfied with the bare necessities of life while cultivating Krishna consciousness. Even though we require economic development, true religion allows it only for supplying the bare necessities of material existence. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. The real purpose of life is to inquire about the absolute truth. If one endeavor is not to inquire about the absolute truth, we will simply increase our endeavor to satisfy our artificial needs. A spiritual aspirant should avoid mundane endeavor.
So a spiritual aspirant should avoid mundane endeavor, right? Wow. Which means, how will we do that? Answer is given by Prabhupada. By always keeping the other goal in your forefront. Jivasya tattva jigyasa. By doing that, you avoid material endeavor. By always keeping that goal in front of you. Right? Very important. Very, very important. That's why for devotees, we can do something practical. Take a break from your busy life and then just go for pure sadhu sangha. Whoever you might be, whatever seva you might be doing, how much ever seva you might be doing, take breaks from your spiritual busy life and then go for sadhu sangha. And when you go for sadhu sangha, don't spend time in management. Do sadhu sangha, which means sit down, hear, chant, serve, inquire. Do that. That's very, very essential. Otherwise, the flow of material energy is so strong that we can become, even passionate in activities related to Krishna consciousness. Okay, one can be passionate with activities outside Krishna consciousness, but one can also become passionate in activities inside Krishna consciousness. So we need to take that break, and then you immerse yourself in complete sadhu sangha. Right? Very important. That can help us to go and come back, like that. So that is required. Otherwise, this prayasa is a big problem, and we may fall in the trap of it very easily. Anyone can fall in trap of it. What to speak of grihasthas, even brahmacharis and sannyasis can fall in trap of it. Anyone can fall in trap for achieving things, right? Anyone. And then one may say, but for Krishna we can do a lot. Yes, if we are that much pure. Like Srila Prabhupada, 2 hours of sleeping, 22 hours of work. Right? So that's okay if you're that much pure. But if I'm not that much pure, then my work will only increase my tendency to work. Which means my karma will increase my tendency to do more karma. And then that will become a reason of bondage, bandhan. Therefore, a devotee should only do work which is required so that you don't feel that I have free time. But it should not become so much that, then you're compromising on other things also, which are essential for your spiritual life. Right? That's why seva is there, or activities in Krishna consciousness is there. It's just to keep ourselves safe from that state when you don't have things to do. Because when you don't have things to do, the mind is idle, you go crazy, you go mad, you start thinking about wrong things. So there has to be seva so that your mind does not go in that direction. Right? That's the purpose of seva. I was hearing one lecture of Srila Prabhupada, so he said, actually the best seva is 24 hours chant devotion. But because we cannot do that, so we need to keep our mind somewhere. Now, if we don't keep our mind in Krishna seva, we'll keep our mind in Maya seva. So then you do some seva. Do seva as per your nature. You are a cook, okay, cook for devotees. You are a teacher, teach to devotees. All that. But then the purpose of that seva is not that it becomes a replacement for chanting nice Hare Krishna. Right? Isn't it? That's not the solution given by Srila Prabhupada. So we have to do this, and come to this understanding of how much we are doing, for what purpose we are doing. Otherwise, there's no limit to it. We can just put efforts more and more and more and miss on the goal. And the goal is that when you close your eyes, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna should come. That's the goal. Should not forget that goal. Right? That's the ultimate goal. So we have to keep that goal in mind. Everything for that. I have to be always engaged in remembrance of Krishna, cultivating Krishna consciousness. Okay, right? So otherwise, we may just put efforts, extra efforts, unnecessary efforts, troublesome to ourselves, troublesome to others. You see, for when we look at the life of pure devotees of Krishna, we should know one thing. They have two bodies. We have only one body. They have a spiritual body, and they also have a material body. So with the spiritual body, 24 hours they are meditating on Krishna. With the material body, 24 hours they are doing practical services to Krishna. Our problem is in one body. So we have to divide time. For what? For chanting Hare Krishna and for doing Seva to Krishna. Even for them, even if they don't chant Hare Krishna externally, with the spiritual body, they are chanting Hare Krishna 24 hours a day. So they can do a lot of things, like Srila Prabhupada and so many things. But for us, we are not at that stage. So we have both the things to be done. Yes, this also, that also. Till the day we also become liberated, then we can use our body much more in Krishna Seva. All right. Okay. Next topic. No, we have some more paragraphs to read. We read the paragraphs. Already finished, huh? This paragraph is remaining? Done. Done. This is done. Okay, 3 types of thinking related to prayas. Bhogi, Tyagi, and Bhakta. You know this, right? Very simple explanations given in basic teachings of Krishna consciousness. There are 3 kinds of mentalities, like an enjoyer, like a renouncer, and like a servant. So enjoyer, Bhogi mentality is everything is for me, renouncer is everything is useless, and servant is everything should be used in Krishna's seva. But it should also be accepted in required amount, not more. And everything should be used in Krishna Seva. That's the mood that we have to pick up. Right? Bhogi, you know that example. Generally, we hear in basic classes that there is some 100 rupee note on the ground, fall on the ground. A Bhogi will come, pick it up, put it in the pocket. A Tyagi will come and say, it's not mine, forget it. And a Bhakta or Sevak will come and say, oh, whose money it is? Let me find out that person and give it to that person. So this is how a devotee is, that we don't indulge in sense gratification, we don't run away from sense gratification. We use the sense objects to gratify Krishna's senses. That's what we do. We use the senses to sense objects to gratify Krishna's senses. Always seeking an opportunity to do that. How can I use this in Krishna Seva? Or how can I use that in Krishna Seva? Thinking like that. Okay. Fine. Any questions or something related to what we discussed so far? Then we go to the next topic. Prajalpa.
Prabhuji, I have a question. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
All right. So those who don't have questions, can you please lower your hand if you had raised it for reading? So we can ask questions, check for questions first. Yes, Upasana.
Yes, Prabhuji, you said about the Adi Bhautik and Adi Daivik, those, the piras that we get from, just we do have a material nature. So what I am asking that what is the adhyathic nature, the pain that caused the mental and bodily problem, but the all I'm asking that can come from also the Adi Bhautik thing. Like, say, for example, I'm saying in Ukraine, now the war is going on. So because of that, the problem is from the enemy that's causing causing difficulties to many people, on mental level and physical level. So I'm asking, is it related somehow that if we get pain from outside, that also cause pain in our body and mind?
I did not understand what you're saying. Very simple, no? Adhyatmic klesha means the klesha, pain caused by your own body and mind. And Adi Bhautik means something caused by some other entity.
But when we get pain from some other entity, that can also cause harm to our body and mind, also can give pain.
Yeah, but what is the cause? The cause is something, some other entity. So you call it Adi Bhautik. When you say it's a problem with your own body, so something like you fell down, you had a fracture in the bone, right? So the cause is not something external. The problem is within the system itself. Or your mind is troubling you. You are having negative thoughts. No one is projecting it upon you. It's you who are doing it. So then it's self-created problem. When you say Adibhautik, it is created by someone else outside you. Ultimately, problem will all be experienced by the body, no? Whether I create it, someone else creates it, the nature creates it. Ultimately, it's the body who is going to experience it, or the mind is going to experience it. So here, the problem is on the basis of who is creating the problem. It's you, then Adhyatmic, someone else, then Adibhautik, the nature, then Adidevik. Understand?
It's not related somehow. I mean, one cannot interfere with another.
You're not understanding. Problem means you are experiencing the problem, but the cause is different. So on the basis of the cause, this categorization is done.
Okay.
Otherwise, every problem is experienced by whom? By the body and mind only, no? Right? But here the categorization is done based on what is the cause?
Okay. Then if somebody hits me and by that I break my bones, then that it falls in the
Adi Bhautik.
Bhautik.
Because someone else is the cause.
Okay.
Right.
Now I understand.
Ma'am. Sureka Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, on material plane, we can somehow or other set the meter that this is our necessity, and be above this we should not accept. But on spiritual plane, what is the meter to check whether this is the instructions of Krishna? Krishna wants this from me or not?
Can you please check again?
Prabhuji, I'm asking about spiritual practices. How can we set a meter? As you said, na, it is also the mercy of Krishna. We can do the services with the mercy of Krishna, right? So how can we check that this is uh, actually Krishna wants from us or not on spiritual practice by these spiritual practices? Sometimes we really feel that this is not my field, I cannot do. How can I check that Krishna wants this from me or not?
You ask. You ask. You ask other devotee who is here in charge.
Guru Maharaj or from my mentor.
You ask each other. If they say it's you do it, you do it. You should check. Should ask. And at the same time, you also should be, little intelligent and honest. That if let's say someone is giving you some task and then you understand that doing that task is getting difficult for you, taking too much of your time. So then you can also always express that, this is what is happening. So then the other person can then give you some other task or can change the instruction, modify. Right? So we have to express, we have to communicate, and we have to communicate in a very honest manner. Honest manner means when it is yes, we say yes. When it is no, we say no. We don't always just say yes, 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 yes. That's not honest, right? So when it's yes, we say yes. Like for example, when you study Gita, don't we see when there was a reason to say no, Arjuna said no, right? Like for example, when Krishna is saying you fight Arjuna, Krishna is saying Karishye Vachanam Tava. But when Krishna is saying you control the mind using Ashtanga Yoga, Arjuna says not practical. Now he's not saying Krishna, whatever you say, I'll do, right? Yeah, fight, yes, I'll fight. That's my duty. And you are saying it's correct. But then when you say do mind control using Ashtanga Yoga, no, not possible for them. Isn't it? Like that. So we have to, sometimes we have to express, because we should know that the person whom we are dealing with, let's say someone has given me a task, some seva or whatever it is, we should know that that person also has a certain level of purity, right? So now if that person is a completely pure devotee of Krishna, then in that case, whatever that person is asking you to do, there is no if and but, right? But if that person is not completely pure devotee of Krishna, that means that person also may need sometimes an explanation from our end, or something input that we want to give, that my spiritual life by doing this thing is affected in this way. Should I continue or not? Then that person can rethink and change the course of things for you. Okay. In the
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, you said that in order to avoid prayasa, we should cut our expenses. But although a lot of needs today are artificially created, still we have to fit in some standards in our surroundings. Other way, people will not appreciate us, will think that we are strange poor people.
A lot of noise, no? Can you put
Sorry,
the
it's
question?
rain. I'm outside.
Yeah. Can you put the question in the chat box?
Okay.
Varshana,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I want to ask, is liberation and salvation the same thing?
yeah. Same.
Okay. Okay. And one more question, if may ask.
Yes. We are not charging you.
Yes, Prabhuji, because I think it's very lame to ask. Prabhuji, we are talking about this accumulation tendency. And since being a grasta, sometimes we do plan. So let's say if suppose there is some sale out there and we see, yeah, it's a good opportunity. Let's buy, for example, some more pulses. Although maybe for this month, I might not need that many, but yeah, so Prabhuji, what do you would like to
It's
suggest?
okay. It's not that we cannot accumulate. I mean, sometimes you have to do it. Even as an institute, we accumulate, right? Because we see the requirement in future. However, it should be within the limit, not too much. It's like food is something which you need, right? You can't survive without it. So fine, if you're accumulating grains or something, that's fine, because it is something which will be useful to you. Yeah. In the past also, when farmers, they will farm, they do the harvest. So then they store the grain for next one whole year, no? Because next harvest will be now next year. Correct? So they have to store the grain for the whole year, isn't it? So that is fine. That's allowed. I mean, that much you have to do. So there are certain things where it is okay, but then there are certain things where it's not okay. Like, to give an example, I have 4 pairs of clothes. Fine. 4, right? Out of that 4, 1 is extra. Why extra? Special occasion, something like that, So it has to be, means, of course, color is same, design is same. But basically, when you wear saffron dhoti kurta, by time its color starts fading, right? So you keep one fresh so that its color is proper, right? So that's extra now. One sometimes, but then if I, instead of say 410, now that is unnecessary.
Yes.
So like that, we have to think, okay, this much is okay. Now this much is too much. So little extra is fine. You have to, it's for practical reasons, keep some little extra.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you so much. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Sanatan, Sai Prabhupada.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I have two questions. First question actually had posted long back in the beginning itself. When we are talking Mahatma and Duratma, can we consider them as fallible, infallible, or liberated and conditioned souls?
Yeah. Generally, when I say Mahatma, it's liberated, pure liberty. Duratma, conditioned souls, not liberated.
And the another question here was when we are talking about accumulation or atyahar, see, we earn and we know that whatever we are getting is Krishna's mercy. So we do use the money for our livelihood. We also save it else in bank for our future uh, requirements, and then whatever we think is extra, we do give it away for donation to iskcon for temple, his creation of life and all. So how do we consider how much should we save or how much we should give away in charity? Percentage which we see in the WhatsApp group or in the Google does not really, I want that to come from you. How much should we consider to be, saved for future? How much should we give away in charity? And how much we should, use for our own purpose?
Prabhu, actually, you see, in the times earlier than now, this was easier to do because you would not have a sudden change in your expenses. Like, if you can just look at what money you spent last year, you can get an idea how much money you're going to spend this year. Because life would be very much similar, right? The problem in today's life is that suddenly your expenses go skyrocket like anything. Sometimes, isn't it? But still, a rough idea is there with any person that how much do you spend on a monthly basis? No, you have that idea, no? And how much you spend on an yearly basis, So then you should make a proper budgeting plan in an year, how much you spend overall for education, health, food, transport, purchasing, spiritual activities or spiritual purchasing. You may not get an exact amount, but you'll get a rough idea, right? Right? You'll get no. So then you make such budget. And then how much you're earning? Okay, then this much you're earning, this much you're spending. How much you're saving? Very simple. Now when you see you're crossing the budget, start cutting down on your expenses. You should know. Like you want to buy a new mobile phone. Is it coming in within this budget? No, forget it. Forget it. No choice. My budget is not allowing me. But how many people in the present times do such things? They don't do. They don't. They don't keep a record of money spent, money earned. They don't keep a record. They realize after spending, oh, my bank account is empty. I have to now use my credit card.
Thank you,
So
Prabhuji.
we have to do that first. And then on that basis, then you practically decide.
So just one more thing to for clarification. So whenever I'm saying I'm earning, how do I consider whether I'm earning too much or whether my expenses are too much? Should I cut down? Because there could be like a person is earning 5 lakhs, his expenses are 4 lakh. But then a person is earning 5,000, expenses are 4,000. But both are actually, surviving, both are living their life. So how can I consider whatever I'm expend, are they beyond a certain extent? If I cut down on my expenses, I can...
very simple, very simple now. You have your karma, so you may be given 5 lakhs by Krishna, right? But then you see how much efforts you're putting to get that 5 lakhs. First. Second, how much sinful it is to get that 5 lakhs. Okay. If you are doing no sinful activity and you're getting that 5 lakhs, fine. It's not weak karma, it is karma. Second, I'm not putting excess efforts, I'm getting by minimum efforts. So I'm also not doing ati prayasa. That means it is my karma. My past karma is coming to me. I'm not doing a wrong thing, I'm not doing over endeavor. So what I'm supposed to get, I'm getting. Right? That is the main, that's how you look at it. If you are doing something wrong, or you are doing more than what is required to be done, which means no time for family, no time for health, no time for good sadhana, no time for association, means you are doing ati prayasa, then you are not doing the right thing.
Prabhuji,
So we first have to start doing the right way, and then when you start doing the right way, whatever you get, accept that as your quota.
Okay, so here what can happen is, supposing I'm getting 5 lakhs, I'm spending 4 lakhs, remaining 1 lakh I'm saving or something out of that, I'm giving some charity. If I cut down on my expenses, instead of 4 lakhs, I will survive on 2 lakhs. 2 lakhs extra which I will be saving, that I can use it for charity, give it for Krishna. So how to understand if whether the expenses which I'm doing are they sufficient, or I'm just unnecessary, spending without control. Just because I'm earning too much, I'm spending too much. So I can basically reduce my expenses and use that money for charity.
Now, how can you know that? That you can know by looking at how you are living your life. Just in your house and whatever you have, make a list of what is not required. Or do I really need it? Like, to give you an example, 2 people living in a house with 6 bedrooms. Required. Required. Not required. 2 people having 10 cars. Having a television set in every single room. Not bad. So you just look at what you need, what you don't need. Now, if you want me to do that for you, then I'll charge for that. Right? That you have to do for yourself. What you need, what you don't need.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay. What is meant by klesha? Klesha means suffering. What are the 3 types? It's put in the purport, no? Adhyatmic, adidevic, adibautic, caused by one's body and mind, caused by other living entities, caused by nature. Binationalism is considered cripple-mindedness because you are working for the sense gratification of your nation. So, yes, in others' eyes, you are selfless. But from this understanding, you're still selfish because you're still thinking on the material platform. So it's cripple-mindedness. Relatively speaking, it's more broader than to just work for oneself. But then, from a Krishna conscious devotee perspective, it is cripple-mindedness. You're just working for your nation. Why just for your nation? Work for the whole planet. Right? Isn't it?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can I please, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Prabhu, there are some people we come across who have no commitment, dedication to their motherland, or at least to the place where they stay.
Like what kind of commitment?
They don't have any sincerity or They think that they have absolutely no commitment to the place where they are
No,
born
like
or to their motherland.
what you say when you say motherland commitment, what exactly?
They wouldn't hesitate to betray their native places, for example.
No, how betray in what way? Betray in what way? Like where there's a cricket match between India and some other country, you go for the other country. That's how you betray India. And betray in what way?
Prabhuji, yes, Prabhuji, that's a difficult question to answer, but then maybe I have a small example to put my thoughts. Maybe will not hesitate to sell off their countrymen or betray their countrymen.
Now you're going to you are trying to you are trying to see nationalism in a different manner here. You are trying to see that that is actually crime. You know, when we talk about nationalism, what is being mentioned here is that you are too much thinking about just your own nation, right? At the cost of causing damage or harm to the other nation. That's called being a nationalist, right? It's not about, okay, you're not keeping you have to keep your country clean, you have to keep your country pollution free, right? Wherever you live, you have to see that the place is having prosperity and all of that. But what is being mentioned here is that just thinking about your country and seeing all the other countries around you as your enemies. That is cripple mindedness. Why? Because you are just thinking about that small group where you're born. What you're talking about is something different. I mean, that is like in being not even being a human being. You are saying selling of people or at a very higher level, at crime level or something, betraying the country, releasing the secrets and all that stuff. That's a different thing. Correct. Here, nationalism, try to understand in what context Prabhupada is using the word nationalism. Not the meaning that you are taking.
Okay, Prabhu. Okay.
Like, for example, you are living in a house. So it's your responsibility to protect from, the house from thieves entering in and stealing stuff, right? Now, if you do that protection, then someone cannot say that you're attached to the house.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu. Got it. Yes, Prabhu.
Right.
Yeah.
So here nationalism means what? You are too much thinking about your land. At what cost? You are ready to damage or cause harm, and you are insensitive, negligent about what's going around, the other places around. That's being nationalistic too much. Okay. So it's not about respecting the motherland.
Just a quick extension of my question, Prabhuji. Even in Mahabharata, we found that.
Yeah, even in Mahabharata, we found that Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight, but then Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight.
Yes, Prabhu. Exactly, Prabhu.
It's based on dharma. So it's not just that because I'm fighting for my country, it means I'm fighting for dharma. First of all, it has to be decided whether it's based on dharma or not, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Got my answers, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next question. Gunagai Garampu, the word Laulyam is going to come tomorrow, right? So we'll discuss the spiritual aspect of it tomorrow. Vrindarani Mataji, you said that in order to avoid price, we should cut down our expenses. But all the many need today are artificially created. We should fit to some extent in social standards. Yes, Mataji, that is true. But then, what is going on in the society? If you just want to satisfy their whims and fancies, life is going to be very difficult. That's why one of the quality mentioned here is avoid material association. Right? A devotee should not have much to do with social standards. Okay. And That problem becomes solvable only when you have a good relationship with devotees. Then you don't feel left out, alone. Right? It's a human need that we need community, we need society. So if we don't have a nice devotee society, we would want to be a part of normal materialistic people society. Getting it? Then our values and principles will be like what they're doing, we should do that. So to some extent, if it's like, if I don't do it, I'm going to lose my job. If I don't do it, then something very serious is going to happen in my life. Then do it. But not just because everyone else is doing it. Not like that. Otherwise, people outside are crazy, like serious. They'll make our life hellish. So we have to, first of all, find good devotee friends. And their values and principles should match with our values and principles. Very much necessary. Otherwise, we need society. So then we look at people in society. Oh, she has a new car. He has a new house. He has a new wife. That also happens. An extra wife. So why can't I? No. Right. Isn't it? So that's how we have to find all these ways. Okay, Vrindavan Mataji. Fine? Yes. What is the meaning of altruism? Altruism or altruistic means doing service to society, humanity. It's like a Samaj Sevi, social welfare work of altruism, charitable. Okay. Sadharana.
So, Hare Krishna. Just my thoughts I want to share, and you please tell whether we are in the right direction of that approach. We all work for success. We all want success, being a student or being a work or whatever. We all want some success. And when success comes, whether that success, after that success, am I able to devote time for Krishna consciousness? That's one way to look at. But I don't get success, I get demotivated, and it affects all other sides of other parts of our endeavors. So then we pray to Krishna to get success. And if still we are not getting success, we somehow accept to live that way of life that is now destined for us. Somehow we don't get what we think we can try to take it. And then try to be contented in that life and still protect the Krishna consciousness. Another thing is we get everything, we get success, everything, but we don't have time for Krishna consciousness. Then we need to strike a balance. And I don't want to hear put money, how much I am earning, how much I should not earn, or 1 acre land, or a small house, or a big house. It just depends how I am able to devote my time to Krishna consciousness. For example, before joining Bhakti Shastri, we were thinking we are in Krishna consciousness, we are thinking Krishna consciousness, but life is just taking us forward. But one fine day we felt that when Guru Maharaj was telling that he also doing Bhakti Vaibhav in that condition, and he didn't attempt to get a honorary degree, but really wrote the exam. It pulled us into the fact that, yeah, we need to devote time for Bhakti Shastri. Now we are putting that time here. So I feel that is my success actually, that I am putting time. We are as a family able to put our time to Bhakti Shastri, learning again, reading again, rereading again. That's it. For me, I just want to look at life like this actually. It's not about how small family or big house we are living in. Because that is completely changed in dimension. Okay, can I earn this much or can I earn that much? We have no clue how much we're going to earn, even if we put our success efforts. So today we are putting success, we are in this part of the world, we have a job, we have a car, we have this thing and that thing. But then if that is not taking me forward in Krishna consciousness, then it is a matter of concern. So just tell us if this idea is correct and where to stop that endeavor and be a complacent lifestyle. Eventually that will happen, bro, without our wanting also.
Okay. So now you see, every moment in life you are at a junction. You have to make choice. Right? What decision you're going to take, what decision you're not going to take. Sometimes you don't have any choice, you just have one choice. Sometimes you have two choices, sometimes 4, sometimes 10. Right? So if Krishna or material nature is pushing you in just one direction, then you have nothing else to do. What to do? It is accepted. But then if you have to, and then you go for the wrong one, right? So that's why we have to use a deliberation. Also. Of course, our own karma will push us in some direction, that is true. But sometimes our karma will also give us choices. So when it doesn't give a choice, then what can you do? Right? Then in that situation, now I'm in this situation, I try my best to be Krishna conscious. However, there are chances of also situations where you get a choice. And that's when you have to use all this knowledge. Am I over-endeavoring? Am I over-collecting? Right? I have an opportunity to buy a house which is 2 BHK, and also I can buy a house 3 BHK. Which one should I go for? Isn't it? Right? So one has to use that intelligence and decide. So both ways. One thing is, some things are being decided for you by material nature, completely out of control of your hand. And then certain things where material nature also gives you some choices. So we have to, both ways we have to deal. Sometimes just accept what can be done, not in my control. But in some situations, it is in your control. You can do something. So you then have to decide also like that. Isn't it? And also you reevaluate, like for example, I'm doing this job and now I'm getting this much salary. 5 years I've been doing this. In 5 years, how much progress did I make in my Krishna consciousness? Am I really going ahead in the speed which I would want to? If not, should I think for something else? And am I in the position to think of something else? That should be there now. Right? So it requires little thinking, planning. It does require. Like I'll give you an example. Let's say I'll just give you a real example. I know one devotee recently has taken to Krishna consciousness seriously. Now he works in Middle East, okay, and he's a helicopter engineer. Very rare job. You don't find such profiles jobs much these days because people hardly use helicopters. In special places they use helicopters. So he's a helicopter engineer. Before the helicopter flies, he has to check everything is fine, there's no problem and all that. Now, it's a very taxing job because so many things you have to check and you can't do a mistake, So you have to be so alert and attentive. And in a day, how many helicopters he has to check? So he told me, Prabhuji, it really sucks my mental energy. So I told him, that's fine. Now, 2 things you can do. One thing is, Krishna has put me in this position, what to do. I'm so much old now. I have a family. So till I retire, I'm just going to do this job. Okay, fine, be like that. Or for next 5-10 years, I'll do this job. Meanwhile, I'll save a lot of Lakshmi instead of spending that useless. And once I have saved that Lakshmi, also I'll start finding something alternative which is much more favorable for my Krishna conscious practice. So fine, you cannot do that today, but you can do that after 10 years. Now, if I also not think about that plan and I just leave it what to do, Krishna has put me in this situation. Just be Krishna conscious somehow. But then what about after 10 years? I also want to be Krishna conscious after 10 years, no? And not just that much, I want to be more Krishna conscious after 10 years. So we have to also think like that. So I told him to prepare for that time after 10 years. It's a good job. You can save a lot of money. So save it. Right? And then later on think of an alternative option. Right? Like I'll give you another very important way of looking at things. Very helpful. One person came to me. I know him since a long time. In 50s now. Children are married. Whole husband, wife, both devotees. Younger brother devotee. Very nice. No bad habits, nothing. So then they told me, Prabhuji, we have some saving and we want to buy an apartment in Vrindavan. So I said, okay, how much money you need for it? She said, whatever amount we have, that won't be sufficient. So now we need little extra. Now for that extra, I may now have to find some source of income, collect that extra, and then buy this apartment in Vrindavan. It is good way of looking, rather than living in Mumbai. Better go and live in Vrindavan in the last days. Very nice decision. Not a wrong decision. Very good decision. Husband and wife just settle in Vrindavan. But then I told him another thing, that your desire is very nice, but the same desire can be fulfilled in a different way also. So what? Now, for buying that flat, you have to work extra. Okay? After you have bought the flat, you go to Vrindavan and suddenly you realize that things are not happening for you here. You have to move back to Mumbai. Then what will you do? Anything may happen, no? Your health may not remain good in Vrindavan. The climate may not suit you. Right? Isn't it? Or your children call you back. Whatever. Or now you are buying a house which is 5 kilometers away from the temple, Krishna Balaram temple. And now you're enthusiastic. Every day I'll go for Mangalarti. But after 1 month, you think 5 kilometers, better let me just sit and chant at my home. Then your purpose of going to Vrindavan is not getting solved. So what you do in this situation, give up the desire of having your own house because you'll die after 15, 20 years. I told him, you'll die, no? Right? So what you do? Put that money in fixed deposit. Take a very small house on rent, very close to the temple, and live in Vrindavan. Your purpose of living in Vrindavan is fulfilled. You are living close to the temple. You don't have to work extra. Just you have to give up that false ego that I have a house in Vrindavan. That's all. You have to tell people I live on rent. That's all. It's okay, no? Right? And if you are not able to live in Vrindavan, fine. That money is still in your account. You have not touched it yet. You go back to Mumbai. That money is with you. When you die, that money is still there. You can donate it to Krishna. Right? I should start life counseling business. All right. So joking. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Shall